Welcome and thank you for tuning in. You're listening to the Beyond 50 radio program. I'm Daniel Davis. On the program today, we're going to be talking about health and nutrition. That's right, as many of us approach midlife, we try to find new ways of doing things as we try to alleviate the aches and the pains and that constant fog in the brain and tiredness that a lot of us feel. So as usual, Beyond 50 reaches into a large community of people who are in midlife and try to find out some of the best ways that we can approach this from a very holistic, natural, and healthy way. Joining us here on the Beyond 50 radio program today is 52-year-old Cheryl Wheeler Duncan, and she's going to be talking with us today about how we can achieve that. Now, I know a lot of you are sitting there saying, well, who is Cheryl Wheeler Duncan? Well, just to give you an idea, she's a veteran Hollywood Stuntwoman. That's right, she's also a Black Belt Hall of Fame kickboxing champion who spent more than 20 years in the film industry and who has doubled for many of the world's top movie stars. So I think now that I have your attention, I would like to welcome Cheryl Wheeler Duncan to the Beyond 50 radio program today. Cheryl, how are you?
I'm good, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Thanks so much.
You know, it's a lot of fun because sometimes people think, oh, here we come, Beyond 50, we're familiar with the show over 10 years and thinking, well, here's another nutritional exercise expert. We don't want to hear from that. But you throw something like Hollywood Stuntwoman in there, and I know that grabbed their attention.
Yeah, it is a little bit of a unique profession, I guess, especially for someone over 50.
Well, not only that, but for women also.
Yeah, no, it's true. It is true. It's a very male-dominated business, and there are more women in it now, than there used to be. I mean, back in the old days, some of the guys would put on wigs and double women. They would double the women actresses. They no longer do that anymore. But yeah, it is definitely a man's world overall. But there are a lot of talented women in it as well.
Mm-hmm. I guess the men just couldn't get the feminine walk down. Maybe
yeah.
That is what it is.
those high heels stumped them, right?
So how did all this start for you?
Oh, my gosh. I got into the stunt industry originally through kickboxing and martial arts. I had I was a black belt in a martial arts style called Yoshikai Karate, and then I ended up getting into kickboxing and professional kickboxing, actually. And Daniel, I grew up with 5 brothers and no sisters, so there's my reasoning, my back reason for doing some of this crazy stuff.
Okay.
But I did. I ended up winning a world title in kickboxing and moved out to the Los Angeles area. I grew up in Pensacola, Florida, and I moved out to the Los Angeles area to be closer to my sanctioning body, that would help me get matches and continue my kickboxing career. And when I went out there, I was trying to break into martial arts movies, which back then it was 1981, 1982. It was the ninja movies were all real popular and things like that. So I was trying to actually get into that avenue of the movie industry and ended up, pardon the pun, but falling into the stunt business instead, know.
Now, were you ever trained, or did you ever work with, like, Jeannie Epper?
Yeah, Jeannie's, God, I've known her forever.
Yeah, she's been probably one of the oldest of the female stunt women who's been in the business for a long time, and their family goes back quite a ways in the industry, I understand.
They do. There's generations of Eppers that continue to work and flourish in the stunt industry. She was... she doubled like, Linda Carter and Wonder Woman. And, Jeannie's a legend. She really is. She was recently just recognized, I think, for Lifetime Achievement for her work in the industry. And not only her work, but her compassion. She does a lot of giving and charity work for, stunt people that get injured. And she's a pretty amazing woman.
Mm-hmm. It's an interesting industry, too. It's hard enough as an actor, working in the industry and trying to get, kind of to the level where you're, I guess, compensated appropriately. But for people who are in the stunt side of things, that gets even trickier because you're dealing with, the way your body's holding together through the kind of work that you do.
That's true. It's true. The longevity factor is you know, it's hit or miss if you, you know, make a few too many mistakes, you know. I mean, stunt people get banged up in general. That's why we wear pads, and, you know, you have all sorts of pads that protect your backbone and your hips and your tailbone and you know, I mean, your knees and your elbows, but in general, sometimes things can go wrong and you can get hurt, and the longevity factor is definitely something you have to look at. You know, people that take too many headshots. Back in the day when they did Smokey and the Bandit and you know, all of the car jumps, you know, a lot of the guys that did those over and over again have got some issues now. You know, some of them you know, brain issues, and you just get rattled one time too many. It's like a boxer, you know. So you know, knock on wood, I've got a few aches and pains, but I'm still coherent.
I know what I really enjoyed. What was it, back in the 90s, Hollywood started remaking a lot of old classic movies, which I was really glad for, because one of them was, of course, The Longest Yard. And the reason is that they would finally re-release the original movie on DVD, you know. And some of those, to me, were my favorite Burt Reynolds movies. But one that came out that surprised me on DVD was one of my favorites, if not my favorite, of the Burt Reynolds movies, which was Hooper.
Oh,
you know. And for many of our listeners, Hooper is a movie where they're making a movie, but it's from the stunt man perspective, what the stunt people do. And so when you were talking about the car thing, you know, there's at the end when they do that, you know, jump across the canyon.
Canyon, yeah.
But what they do and how Burt Reynolds, you know, and the stunt people are doing a lot of drinking and taking a lot of, you know, shots and so forth, and you kind of wonder, do they really live that way?
Yeah, and I think the old school stunt people did.
Okay.
I really do. I think it's changed a lot. But back in the days when John Wayne had stunt doubles, boy, those guys played hard and they lived hard and they worked hard. You know, there was a lot of, you know, drinking going on and recreational partying. I don't know. I think that it's changed a lot now. I mean, I never really saw a lot of that even when I started in 1985. Actually, when I got my Screen Actors Guild card. There was a little bit of it, you know, some of the old school guys, but for the most part, people coming up were very serious and almost like engineers, you know.
Right.
They weren't daredevils, you know. It was more about making things work safely, and a lot of science went into the stunt rigging, you know, the wire work and a lot of the different avenues of making something look so incredibly real, like The Matrix and you know that those kind of movies. That so it kind of graduated to being taken a little bit more seriously, and there was a lot more competition, and you really had to be cutting edge, good, and lucid, and you couldn't goof off. I mean, it's about getting the job done on time, and so things tightened up a little bit, I think, as you know, just as the years progressed. Well,
that's what Hooper was really recognizing too, is they bring in Jan Michael Vincent. He's the young new buck on the set, and they start talking about it later on in the movie where he says, you know, these new guys coming up, you know, they're doing things we would have never dreamed of, but they don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't do drugs. I mean, they really take it seriously, they stay in shape. That's exactly what happened in the industry, is it really changed that way, and I would think it would have to, because how long could you exist, you know, living sort of a rock-style sort of life, and then beating yourself all to hell over a movie set.
Right. It's true. I mean, how long, if you don't take care of yourself, how long is your longevity going to be? It's not going to be that long, or you're not going to look that great to be able to double some of these top leading men and women. And I think that's, you know, a big part that's come into play as well. It's like you really do have to toe the line and take care of yourself to be able to stay a certain weight and, you know, not look like you're 100 years old if you don't get any sleep continuously. And, you know, so people are a lot more aware of that, and they want to, and, you know, and that reflects on the actresses, too. I mean, as a stunt woman, I know a lot of the ladies that I double, they take good care of themselves, you know, and they're not going to want you to double them if you don't look, you know, good, too. So the longevity factor is a huge part in you know, how successful you are in the business. And women, let's face it, even more so than the men, man, they have to look good. And it's a tough balancing act trying to walk that line, you know, and look as good as you can for your age, you know. Just recently I doubled Charlize Theron on a film down in Shreveport called Dark Places. Mm-hmm. And I think it's going to be another Academy Award winner for her. I mean, it was a real gritty, raw part for her. And she's 37, you know, and I was 53.
Wow.
And they picked me to double her, or she picked me. She was one of the producers on the show, and she was worried about how her stunt double looked in skinny jeans, you know, and how her body looked. And I had to send all these photos, you know, of me in skinny jeans, front, back, to the side, you know. And I thought, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm going to pass muster, but you know, I'm thin and in shape, and she ended up picking me, and I was flattered and floored, and went and did a great job for her. I had to do a stair fall, tumbling down backwards on some wooden stairs.
Oh.
I had to do some crazy stuff for her, and it went great, and she gave me a big hug afterwards, and you know, hopefully she'll call me again. But you know, it was like, I mean, would I have gotten picked if I'd have let myself go a little bit, or gained a few pounds too many? I mean, I don't think I would have, you know. So they're picky, so we have to take care of ourselves, you know.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell us, how many movies have you stunt doubled in?
Well, I got my SAG card in 1985, so I've been doing it a long time. I've done a lot of TV series, you know, the Baywatches and the Knight Riders and the Alias, and you know, so I've done a lot of redundant shows over and over again that were TV series. And
but it worked, though. That's always nice.
Yeah, no, it's great, and they rerun, and you get residuals for it. And the feature films, I've doubled so many of the different leading ladies back. You know, Kathleen Turner, I was her stunt double for many, many films. Sharon Stone, I've doubled a time or two. Sandra Bullock, I've doubled a little bit. Renee Russo was an actress who is, I don't know, she's probably about 57 right now. And I've doubled her for just about her whole career. I mean, we started together with Lethal Weapon 3, and then I doubled her on, you know, Lethal Weapon 4, Ransom. I mean, I can't even remember all the movies I've done with her, but she's a great friend, and somebody that I really respect a lot. But you know, Bridget Fonda, I doubled her on Point of No Return. That was also a pretty well-received movie. And gosh, I mean,
that was the Bridget Fonda movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But I've done so many. I've doubled so many people over the years, and some of them just not anybody that you would really know or remember, but more TV actresses and things like that. But it's been a good career. It really has. Overall, I've been I probably you know, 900 films and TV shows. I mean, probably something like that. I mean, there's been a lot.
Sounds like quite a whirlwind to share with your children, huh?
Yeah, they're fun.
Why do I have to eat like this, Mom? Well, take a look at this film and let me show you why.
Yeah, well, I don't know if they sent you my stunt reel or if you had a chance to look at any of that, but yeah, there's some crazy stunts on it, you know, just, you know, diving out of cars and falling off of horses and driving cars and, you know, getting blown up and, you know, just kind of always tried to stay well-rounded, you know, because I did get into the industry through the martial arts, and a lot of times stunt people will get kind of branded for what they do their best. And, you know, like people will come in as a gymnast, and they'll mainly come in and do gymnastics. And I was really careful not to get pigeonholed. I mean, people knew I was tough because I was a martial artist and I had a world title in kickboxing, but I didn't want to just do that. So I made it a point to go to, you know, I went to Bob Bondurant's driving school. I worked a lot with different stunt people, learning how to become a really decent wheel girl is what they call it, you know, and where you drive cars and do stunts in cars. And I really, really excelled in that area over the years, and, you know, horse work, things like that, so you don't get pigeonholed in just one talent. And that's when you're going to work the most, the more well-rounded you are. And I always strive to do that in my career.
Now, they all have a level of danger, but what would you say of what you've had to perform to you was probably the riskiest thing that you've done?
You know, I've done some crazy stuff with bombs and jumping off of train trestles. And
oh, boy.
With an explosion going off, you know, at the same time, and a train coming and things like that. I mean, that was pretty scary to me. I mean, I did get hurt on a pretty well-renowned film. I don't know if you knew about it, but I got hurt on Back to the Future Part 2.
Okay.
And it was, I don't know if you saw that movie. Most people have, but it was the hoverboard sequence where Michael J. Fox was getting chased around that futuristic courtyard.
Right, and it's a hover skateboard instead of a skateboard.
Right, so we were all on wires, and I was doubling Biff's girlfriend, Tom Wilson's girlfriend in the film. Her name was Darlene Vogel, and she, well, long story short, we were supposed to, you know, kind of go out of control and on the hoverboards flying through the air. We were about 20 feet up in the air. We were supposed to crash through this big courthouse window, and it is in the movie, you know, where they go out of control trying to catch him and go through this big courthouse window. But if you watch the movie really close, you will see that Biff's girlfriend hit the pillar before she got to the window, and that was me. And they were swinging us between these two giant pillars into this breakaway glass, and the whole contraption kind of moved left as we were swinging. And long story short, I hit that left pillar, and it stopped me cold. And when the other people kept going and crashed through the window, the special effects guy thought that I was still with them, and he hit the release button. So I was outside dangling by the pillar and released everyone else. And so I went 20 feet to the concrete and landed. No. It was a mess. I landed flat like I was in a bed, and I crushed everything between my nose and my left ear. And everything just went inward. And I was lucky to live. You know, it was a really bad concussion. I was, they had to revive me on set, and yeah, it was a bad one. And I was fortunate that I didn't break more because, you know, I had on a flying harness that they had specially made for Michael J. Fox, and it kind of held my spine together. And then she was dressed in this futuristic outfit, so she had on AXO motocross shin guards, knee guards, and elbow guards. So when I fell, I landed on these plastic hard-cupped shin guards and knee guards and elbows, so it saved me from breaking my legs and my arms.
Wow.
I did shatter my wrist and my hand, and I shattered a lot of the bones in my face and jaw, and I was out for a while. But that was the only, you know, really bad one that I went through, and it was a tough recovery, and that's kind of how I segged into health and nutrition, because I'd had 5 reconstructive surgeries, 4 to my face and 1 to my arm and my hand and my wrist. And after all those surgeries, and the last surgery was an 8-hour surgery where I had to give 3 pints of my own blood to repair and redo my jaw. And I think it just knocked me for such a loop, you know, going through all those surgeries and the anesthesia and the drugs and toxicity, and I just would get one after another, so my body never really had time to heal. And after the 5th surgery, I was just feeling like death warmed over. I just, you know, somebody would cough around me and I'd catch bronchitis. You know, I mean,
oh boy.
You know what I mean? I had no immune response.
The regular world became a little more dangerous than the stunt world, it sounds like.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think, and you know, a lot of people over 50 can relate if they've had any kind of surgery. They, you know, the anesthesia and everything that you go through, I mean, it just really takes it out of your body. It really takes away your reserves, and you don't have that strength and that strength to kind of bounce back after a while. And I think that's how I ended up, you know, I ended up taking somebody's advice and going to see a nutritionist that was recommended to me. And I think you guys have had him on your show, Dr. Lindsay Duncan.
Okay, yes. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, and he was the gentleman that helped me back to recovery. I mean, I was just a mess when I went into his office. I mean, and he knew that I had had a lot of surgeries. He said, well, he goes, you've either had a lot of surgeries or you're a closet druggie. And he goes, and healthy to be a druggie. You know, he said you're muscular and you look fit, and but he said you look like you've just been through the ringer. And I said I have. I said I had a really bad accident. And anyway, I explained it to him, and he said, my gosh, he goes, it's not really what you do at this point. He says it's what you undo. He said we have to work to cleanse and kind of detoxify some of the anesthesia and a lot of the drugs that reside in that, you know, it kind of locks up and stores in your liver, and it kind of just pollutes your whole body unless you really work to get rid of them. And it made a lot of sense to me because I just felt so bad. And he kind of started teaching me how to detoxify, and almost like, you know, somebody that goes to the Betty Ford Clinic and learns how to eat clean and detoxify and get rid of alcohol or whatever their issues are. Well, mine were anesthesia and prescription drugs and things that I'd been given by the doctors but had just accumulated and ended up, you know, making me feel so bad. So he taught me how to do that with herbs and supplements and diet and lifestyle changes, and it was so miraculous. I mean, in fact, it was so miraculous, Daniel, that I thought, wow, this is why this happened to me. You know, this is why I almost died, and this is the path that my life is supposed to take to get involved in nutrition and trying to help other people with my testimonial and my story. And so, and I still do the stunts. I do stunts more as a hobby now, but, you know, at 53, I can't do it full time.
Yeah, dropping off of tall buildings just doesn't cut it anymore. You did the Wile E. Coyote into the pillar trick, but it's done.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I certainly wouldn't want to just have to pay my bills with stunt work, but, you know, I still get called, and I still have a lot of fun doing it, and it's that whole longevity factor in taking good care of myself is the way that I've been able to continue doing it. So it's kind of a nice testimony for nutrition and taking care of yourself on the natural health side, you know.
Well, I think it's fascinating, too, when you think about people who just live a regular existence, you know, day to day. They go to work, they come home, and it's pretty much routine. And, you know, when it comes to the way people eat or even exercise, and you see people getting sick all the time, even young people, and it's really surprising. And we hear about nutrition and, you know, what is the right thing to do and the right way to eat, and it's such a confusing industry at times that, you know, it's like 5 people standing around whistling for the dog to come to them, but you don't know which way you're supposed to go. You know, I guess you go to the one that blows the loudest, it seems like. But really, when it comes to diet and nutrition, it's not all as complicated as they tend to make it out there. Confusing, is it?
No, I mean, I think that the best way to do it is to stay with basics, you know, because people can get really confused. You walk into a Whole Foods market and you're like, oh, my gosh, where do I even start if I want a supplement, you know? And I believe in basics. I believe in trying to do as much as you can with your diet, and then. But I am always going to take supplements just because I feel like, you know, why not stack the odds in my favor? And I think that the diet is so depleted these days of nutrients because what we eat. So much of what we eat is processed foods, and, you know, has been salted and sugared up. And, you know, if everybody had the time to always eat fresh, natural, whole, raw, it would be so much easier. But in our fast food world, we don't. So we have to kind of make, you know, we have to, you know, we do what we can. You know, we try our hardest. But I'm a big believer in just drinking water. I always tell my kids, it's like, you know what, drink water. And if you want something sweet, eat it. You know, eat your sweet instead of drinking it. Don't drink all these processed, salty, sugary sodas that just, you know, rob our bones of calcium and turn our bodies so acid. You know, acidity is a huge issue with you know, degenerative diseases. I mean, usually anything that's degenerative, whether it's arthritis, whether it's cancer, I mean, if you look at the pH of that disease and what the body is like when those diseases grab hold, the body's overly acid.
Right.
And so I'm a big believer in doing basics like alkaline water. You know, when you drink water that's alkaline, it's very easy to counteract that excess acidity. And acid foods are mostly what are out there. You know, anything flesh, protein is acid. Anything sugar is acid. Dairy causes acid. The only thing that doesn't is vegetables and to a certain extent fruits. But green leafy vegetables are very alkaline, and certain grains like quinoa are alkaline. But you don't even want to get too scientific with it.
Right.
You just need to kind of think, well, you know what? I'm going to be healthier if I'm alkaline. And if you drink alkaline water, it's a good way to balance that out.
Mm-hmm.
You can get alkaline water at Whole Foods Market. There's brands that have it, and there's also a great company called Genesis Pure that has alkaline water drops that you can add to any liquid that you drink that will change the pH to an alkaline base. And, things like that. Drinking a lot of water, eating just wholesome foods as much as possible, things that grow and that are alive. And nutrition, I'm a big believer in, like, liquid supplements. Genesis Pure has a great liquid multivitamin called Daily Build that I really like. And anything liquid is going to assimilate better, especially as we get older and we lose the hydrochloric acid that a lot of us have so much of when we're younger.
Mm-hmm.
As we get older, we don't have as much digestive capabilities. So anything that we eat in whole food form or supplements that are liquid are going to always digest better for an older person, and myself included. I'm talking over 50,
Right. Well, and one of the biggest things, too, is that it's important to repair the digestive system itself. That's the first place to start, so that you can, in a very healthy way, that as you change your nutrition to a better way of living, then you're able to assimilate and absorb and to be able to use these things. And we've approached this topic many times on the program, and it's interesting when you look out there at what's being produced as far as nutritional advice is concerned from the experts alleged, is that you rarely hear about something like, first repair the digestive system, here's the way you go about it,
right.
in a very natural way. They just kind of, take the supplement because it zaps the brain and gives you clarity, and it's like they go around the most basic thing. Well, you've got to take this in, and unless that system is working well, that isn't going to matter all that much.
You're right. It's not what you eat; it's what you digest, absorb, and assimilate, and it is the key. And Lindsay Duncan, his clinic, his whole philosophy was you take care of the mother feeder, the core, the digestive and eliminative system, and it's a huge thing, and you can do it with probiotics. You can do it with apple cider vinegar. You can balance and restore that digestive system by cleansing and detoxifying, and that's a huge thing that I think is touted around the world now. You hear about cleansing, cleansing, but there is.
It sounds so new.
Well, but there's a huge basic core philosophy around it that
it's only been around a few thousand years, but it's so new. Geez, why didn't we know about this before?
Well, in Lindsay's clinic, when I would go to him as a client, as a patient, he had 3 pillars of philosophy. It was cleanse, it was balance, and it was build. And Genesis Pure, the company that I was talking about, the supplement company, also has those same philosophies. It's cleanse the body, so you kind of get, like you said, jumpstart that digestive system, get it working better, get everything working better so that you're absorbing and assimilating the foods that we eat. And then the balance part of it is more about the pH, trying to keep people more in an alkaline state. And then the building part of the philosophy is about rebuilding the body with really high nutritious foods. Some of the superfruits that Genesis Pure carries, and I'm a big believer in superfruits because they're whole foods.
Oh yeah,
it's like noni, mangosteen, acai. These type of superfruit juices that haven't been harvested from farms that the soils have been used over and over and over again. Acai, some of our farms that they get their products from are down in the rainforest, that whole floodplain of the rainforest basin in the Amazon, and where it's just continually renewed, the soil, the nutrients in the soil, and here in even in organic farms, it's tough because we're reusing them over and over and over again, and it's tough to get the same amount of nutrients from your spinach that you did 30 years ago. I think 30 years ago it was like 110 milligrams of spinach in a cup of spinach, and now it's 5 milligrams.
Wow.
And it's I'm sorry, I clarify, iron.
Right.
110 milligrams of iron versus 5 milligrams now in the same cup of spinach, because the soils have just been kind of, used and used and used, and it's, you can't get blood out of a turnip, you know what I mean? It's just
right.
After a while they start, the just nutrient buildup is just less and less. So that's why the build part of the philosophy is so important to me, to supplement with nutrients, the liquid calciums and the things that as we get older we need, and it's harder to assimilate. The liquid multivitamin and mineral is so important for us, and you feel better on certain supplements. And, if we could all eat perfect, it would be a whole different story, but it's just hard in our day and lifestyle to be able to eat perfect. Mm-hmm. So if we can supplement with things like a greens product, Jessica has a wonderful powdered greens. It's all raw, organic greens, and my morning starts like this, Daniel. I take a blender, I put a little bit of alkaline water and a few ice cubes. I'll take a big scoop of greens, the powdered greens. Mm-hmm. I'll take my various superfruits. I'll use acai, a shot of acai. I'll use mangosteen, which I love for inflammation and the immune system. Acai is great for energy and for the metabolism, and it's got a lot of healthy oil and fat in it. I'll put chia seeds in it. I love this brand called Mila, and the chia seeds have a lot of good fat and oil in it as well. And then I'll take bee pollen that I get at Natural Grocers, mm-hmm. and I'll throw a handful of bee pollen in there and a little bit of lecithin to help me break down fat. And boy, I make that in the morning, and I add a little bit of my liquid multivitamin, the Daily Build, and I am raring to go. I mean, I need no food other than that in the morning, mm-hmm. And it's liquid. So as we go older, what's so easy to absorb as we get older? Liquid, Mm-hmm. So I just try and play that game strategically, because if you eat a big heavy meal, and your stomach's all bloated and you feel like going to sleep,
Right. I actually mentioned that to a friend. I like to go out to breakfast once in a great while, and the reason is, when I'm done, I usually feel like going to bed, and that's not the way breakfast should be making you feel.
But you know what, Daniel? It's actually okay to do that every once in a while.
And I agree, but that's why I do it once in a while, because I don't like to feel like when I get up, I eat breakfast, and I want to go back to bed,
Yeah.
No.
Well, but every once in a while, that brunch is a lot of fun, and I am not perfect. I am not a perfect eater, but I'm very strategic in what I do, and
right.
I've learned to kind of eat light at night, and I eat more of a heavier meal. If I'm going to, eat heavy, I like to eat it around lunch, because then you're still going to burn it off. And at night, I'll eat lighter. Sometimes I'll do a shake at night. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll just have fruit and some Greek yogurt. It just depends. But I never eat so heavy anymore. And I've noticed as I've gotten older that the times that I do that, I have a late night out and I go have a big heavy meal. Mm-hmm. You wake up the next day feeling like a truck hit you.
Mm-hmm.
You just.
If you get to sleep at all.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting, and there's simple little things that I think as we get older we can do, like not quite eating as much, eating earlier in the day, drinking more water, going for more liquids rather than heavy foods. Mm-hmm. And you can try to test yourself. I mean, we all know if you eat a big steak and potato meal late at night, you wake up feeling like you didn't get any sleep, and it's because you really didn't. Your body was busy for 6 to 7 hours digesting.
Right.
When at night, right, and at night it's supposed to be more rejuvenation time. Regrowth, rejuvenate, and detoxify, and you wake up kind of feeling clear and cleared, and if you eat late at night, that's not what happens. Mm-hmm. You wake up with circles under your eyes, and you're tired, and you've got a bad taste in your mouth, and it's just funny how as we get older, we can't cheat as much. When we're young, we can eat that hamburger and shake and down it with another milkshake, and
then do an explosive car stunt, and then we're on our way to the prom.
Oh, God.
How do you think things, I know sometimes it's not easy for a person looking in hindsight at their lives. Usually we tend to think we remember most of it, but there's a lot more of it we don't than we do. But as you changed your outlook, your way of nutrition and the way you were taking care of yourself after your accident. What was it like before then? Were you taking pretty good care of yourself? I mean, I would think you would have to because of being able to recover from what you were doing.
I grew up in the South, so I grew up eating chicken fried steak and fried catfish and fried fish, and I grew up on the Gulf Coast in Pensacola, and I grew up chasing the mosquito truck. Do you even know what that is in Oregon?
I have no idea.
they back in the South, they used to drive around with one of those mosquito trucks, and the kids we all called it the fog truck. And the fog truck would be coming through the neighborhood spraying for, mosquitoes because you're in Florida in the height of summer, and that's what they did back then. They sprayed DDT, and
oh wow,
and we would run behind it, going, oh, the fog truck, let's go chase the fog truck. I mean, crazy stuff. So I grew up
while it's spraying DDT, you're chasing the truck.
Well,
that must have been one of your ultimate stunts.
That was the stupidest stunt I have ever done in my life. And my mother, God bless her, she just, it's like, oh, y'all be careful. I mean, it was just, nobody knew. And, and in Pensacola, recently I was telling somebody in one of my seminars that Pensacola is listed as one of the top 10 worst tap water cities in the country. And it's interesting because as I've grown older, I moved away from the age of 21, and I've lived in California, and then I live in Austin, Texas now. But it's interesting because so many of my brother's friends have gotten cancers died. I mean, a very high percentage, higher than I think normal. And I think, one is Pensacola is, got bad tap water. Two, it's one of the biggest Monsanto factory. Monsanto is just right outside of Pensacola, and I think, to some extent, the groundwater's been contaminated from a lot of the things that they've done, and when there were no systems and checks in place for that kind of stuff. And it's interesting. So I think I grew up with not such a great foundation. Now, I was an athlete, and I was young, and so the body can be very forgiving. I didn't drink or smoke, or I didn't do anything bad like that. I just ate comfort food and ate what I wanted, but I worked out all the time. So, and when we're younger like that, in our teens and early 20s, we can get away with a lot if you exercise. And so that kept my foundation strong. But when I got hurt, it changed everything, because for the first time in my life, I started really looking at what I was putting in my body and really trying to put only good things in it. And it was life-changing. It really was. But, was I a real sickly child when I was younger? No, I wasn't sickly, but I was thin. And I think that youth is very forgiving. When we're young, we can get away with a lot that we can't get away with when we're, 50 and over. We have to toe the line a little more and be a little bit more strategic.
Yeah, there's a lot more cellular replacement that goes on as you're younger, so as you said, your body tends to be more forgiving, but after that happens, or when you've kind of hit the amount of growth that you are actually going to have in your lifetime, then it's more stabilization, and that's when it really gets critical, because when you start pushing the edge, let's say, like someone like you who's in an industry where you do these kinds of things physically, you've got to have really good recovery, because if you don't, it's just going to get worse and worse. That's got to be pretty rough to live with.
Yeah, you're right about the recovery factor. It is, and if we don't have the right amount of minerals and nutrients that we need in our body, well, first of all, you're gonna that some of the people that bruise real easy, they don't have the appropriate amount of minerals, potassium and things that help you heal quicker. And with stunts especially, oh my goodness, you get beat up pretty bad, and if you don't have that recovery, if you just don't have that ability to recover quick, you're going to be on the sidelines way too much. And even now, I'm so religious about what I put in my body, because when I do these stunts at my age, I mean, it does take a little longer to recover. I don't care if you're putting, if you're Popeye and you're putting spinach in the body, I mean, it takes longer. It takes longer. It hurts more. I'm more sore for a couple of days, but I still bounce back quicker than most people just because I'm on such a high quality building regimen, with all my super fruits and my green powders, and then what I put in my body, my bee pollen and and I'm a big believer in probiotics, the different good bacteria for the body. I think it really bolsters the immune system and helps you to come back quicker. I'll eat probiotics sometimes like candy. It just because it is. They say that 70% of the immune system lies in your gut, and so many of us have had that aspect, especially older people that are on antibiotics and different prescription meds. It tends to destroy the good flora in our body along with the bad, and sometimes we're looking to destroy the bad, but the good goes with it. And when you disrupt that in the intestinal system and the colon, it can do everything from constipate you to help you not break your food down as well. And so I'm a big believer in the whole probiotic, taking that in daily form,
I know as we've been producing shows when it comes to health and nutrition, we've been bold enough over the last 2 years to start approaching, for instance, autism and schizophrenia from just that approach alone. And as you're beginning to see people emerging in this field to show the connection between the fact that your mind and your gut, that there are real, I guess, there's a symbiosis about how they work together, and that, with autism, they're still looking at this as a behavioral developmental thing when so much of the autism that you're seeing this day and age is onset well after birth. We're talking, 5, 6, 7, 11 years old, they're seeing it, and we're saying, look, it's not behavioral, it's not, a developmental thing. We're not saying this, we're bringing experts on who are actually looking at this and trying to change this around, because it's really becoming a very ugly industry that it's starting to rear its head. And it's sad because, of what's happening in families, and in some cases destroying some families, and yet this is an epidemic. That means it's growing. Something's off there. Yet we've been seeing, and the connection like what you're talking about here with the probiotics, getting the digestive system back in balance, clearing and detoxifying, there are people turning autism and schizophrenia around just based on that alone. It's pretty phenomenal what's going on out there.
There are. It is amazing work. And you're right. If I had a child that was autistic, I would be feeding them probiotics like candy. I would get them off of all gluten. I'd get them off of all dairy. I would put them on a caveman diet just to prove the difference that could happen. I think dairy and gluten, when you have a child that has issues like this, are very troublesome for them and very hard for them to deal with. And when you can get those factors out of their diet, it's miraculous what can happen. And I think also you have to look at getting out, putting them on some type of a mild, and I say mild with children, cleansing program. And a lot of times you have to look at heavy metals, because a lot of times these multiple vaccines, and still even these days, I think I was just reading that the flu vaccine is still immersed in demerasol, which is mercury. And
the fact that anybody goes to get a flu shot is ridiculous, but that's my opinion.
No, and you know what? And I will. I'm sure people will. Everybody's got an opinion, but my children have never been vaccinated, and I might revisit that if I was going to take them to a third world country, but they've never been out of the country, and I believe that I did the right thing. They've got a strong immune system, and they rarely get sick, and I've never vaccinated them, and but I do believe that kids especially can get, if they have had multiple vaccinations, they can build up with heavy metals, and it can start affecting their brain. And a lot of times, chelation is, the art of removing the heavy metals from the body. And used to be you could only do that through, IV chelation, but now they have got some real good oral chelators out there that can help turn, children's situations around and help pull the metals out of the brain and some of the troublesome areas that they tend to store and go dormant in the children's bodies. So between chelating, detoxifying, and cleansing, making sure they're having a couple of bowel movements a day, which is hugely important and sets the stage for being a healthy adult. This really getting particular with the diet and using the probiotic can be miraculous with autistic children. It really can.
Yeah, it is pretty fascinating how basic a lot of the things you can do, would just turn a lot of things around. The body it's such a miraculous system. I mean, it comes into this world knowing exactly what it needs to do, and it's sort of like, in many ways, just get out of your own way.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Get out of the way, let it do what it likes to do. It's so true, Daniel. It really is. We are, just a healing machine. We will heal ourselves if we just get out of the way long enough and feed it the right things that it needs to be at its best. And I think for older people, for my age and over 50 plus, I think we have to look at that these days. We have to eat right. We can't cheat quite as much. We have to get lots of good water. And I always tell people, drink water. Just anytime you can think about it, drink alkaline water and flush that body with alkalinity, flush it with liquids, and help that whole rebuilding and rejuvenating process that can only happen if you're getting enough water. And as we get older, we start losing water anyway, and we become drier. And, we dehydrate to some extent. And so if you can flush yourself with alkaline water and really keep that liquid content up that's, healthy, and focus on eating whole foods and high in nutrient superfoods like the green powders and the superfruit juices, I'm telling you, it makes a huge difference between, just living and then just living with zest and feeling great and wanting to have the energy to go garden or to take walks or to travel and do things. Because I think that's what happens as we get older. We tend to just live,
Right. Just kind of exist, in other words.
Yeah, and it's about quality of life, and I think that the nutrients like Genesis Pure or the bee pollen that I get at the health food store, or just making those healthy choices that are going to give you the nutrients that are going to flush your body with the nutrients that are going to make you feel like going out and doing what you like to do, whether it's dancing or walking or gardening or doing stunt work,
Doing stunt work, exactly.
you got to have that energy level to do it, and we just all have to, be strategic and smart and stack the odds in our favor and not complicate it overly to where we just throw our hands up in the air and go, well, I don't even know where to start, so I'm going to go have some fried catfish.
Exactly. Well, the first thing you can start is by having something that you recognize, versus something that's in a box or a package, and you're saying, well, what is that?
Right. And making that effort to say, you know what, I'm going to take, even if I'm on a limited budget, I'm going to take my limited budget and I'm going to make an effort to eat as many whole foods as I can. And if I can take one or two supplements, grab a good liquid supplement that is going to be assimilated and absorbed properly. And, I'm a big believer in that, because I think a lot of times people take these rock-hard calcium tablets that you pick up at, a drugstore for, just a little bit of money, and they pass them. It's the most expensive sewage system in the world. I mean, we pass these whole capsules, the tablets that are just not able for the body to even break down. So I'm a big believer in liquids, and if you can't get liquids, powders, and if you can't do powders, you get something in capsule form, and you take supplements as well as try and eat as healthy as you can, and we all just have to be strategic and do the best we can.
Exactly. Getting the right kind of information before you make the choices that you make as well. Cheryl, do you have a website people can find out more?
Yeah, I have a website at CherylWheelerDuncan.com.
Okay.
And the supplement company that I love is the Genesis Pure stuntwoman.com.
Okay.
And they can find out more about the superfruits and the powders and the things that, will make them feel better. And diet and things like that you can find on my website. And I think Genesis Pure has some nice nutritional information on their website as well. But, I'm so excited to have been able to come on today and talk to you, Daniel. You sound like you were you sound like a nutritionist yourself.
Well, 10 to 15 years in broadcasting, talking to some of the world's best, you get to learn a few things here and there.
Absolutely.
But I thought it was a nice approach to have a stunt woman come on instead. Hey, this is somebody that's one of us. They're out there taking the beatings. They're not running around in tunics, and stethoscopes and telling me what I should and shouldn't be doing. This is somebody that's out there getting herself beat up for a living, and if she can rebound from that doing the right thing, then dadgummit, so can I.
Well, I tell you, the whole giant accident that almost killed me thing and me segging into nutrition was a blessing in disguise. And, we always have to find those silver linings in the cloud. It's like, why did this happen to me? I almost died. It almost ruined my life. And, guess what? This is why it happened to me, because it changed my life about cleansing and detoxification and nutrition. And, wow, okay, so who would I be if I didn't, pass this on, pay it forward, with my own testimonial. And so I'm just a huge believer in nutrition. It's changed my life, and that's the way the world is going. It, and I know it, and a lot of the big pharmaceutical companies and the doctors have been bucking it, but I think they're even falling into line, saying, you know what, we need to take a closer look at this nutrition thing, because obviously people are being helped with it,
Well, not only that, but people are also discovering, too, that the ultimate way, if you're going to vote and make any kind of a change, is you vote with your wallet. It's just really that simple. You stop buying those kinds of things that you don't believe are going to work, and you buy the things that do, and there really isn't a whole lot anybody can do about it.
It's true. You're right. You're right.
Cheryl Wheeler Duncan. .com is the website. You can find out more about our veteran stunt woman, who should be up for an Academy Award here next year, or at least her Stunt-Double, the actress, Charlene Theron.
I believe her new movie Dark Places is going to be a big one. Kind of gritty. Like, not everybody will want to go see it, but it'll be one of those award-winning films.
Absolutely. Well, Cheryl, it's been a pleasure to have you here on the program, and thanks so much for sharing how we can rebound after we hit the pillar. And, I'm reminded, as you were saying, that it was life-changing, that a lot of times we tend to look at adversity and think, oh, my goodness, why is this happening to me? But we had a guest on the program about a year ago, and he says, whenever you have any kind of adversity, the question to ask yourself is this: what possible good is going to come from this?
Yeah.
And he says that'll change your perspective quite easily, hopefully easily, and it's amazing what you'll discover there. And for you, you became a nutritional and healing expert. And who better than a stunt woman?
It is true. I do tell that to people, too. It's like adversity, people that were born with a silver spoon in their mouth and they've never had any adversity or any challenges are kind of boring,
Yeah.
They really are. We all have our mountains to climb, and they're going to make us a better person. It's just about perspective, and it's about, looking at it in the right way. It really is.
Well, Cheryl, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us here on the program today. It's been a real pleasure.
You're so welcome, Daniel. It was an honor speaking to you. You were a lot of fun to converse with, and I look forward to catching up with you again soon. It's a great radio show.
Well, I'm going to get out there and do some tumbling in the meantime and see if I can get on a set. Thanks again, Cheryl.
You're welcome, Daniel. Thanks for having me.
You bet. Again, you can find out more. Visit CherylWheelerDuncan.com and find out more about how you can follow the Stunt Woman's perspective on nutritional healing, cleaning, and supplementation. We also encourage you to visit us at Beyond50Radio.com, our website. The 50 is what you're looking for, and we do have exclusive updates for our Beyond 50 listeners as well. I'm Daniel Davis. Thank you for tuning in. This is the Beyond 50 radio program, and remember, live your day past halfway.